8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Our journey has been long, fulfilling and rewarding. Established in the year 28, our story began to guide and support the students for their study abroad journey. We've helped students in every step for their overseas education, right from handpicking the study destinations, choosing the right course, selecting a university, visa guidance, scholarship info, and more. May 28 marked a whole new beginning. Our first office opened in Melbourne, followed by 3 new offices in Nepal in the year 2011, 2015 and 2016 respectively. By the year 2012, we started helping the onshore students in Sydney and Brisbane. And in no time, we expanded into Southern Europe. We started providing our counselling services in Southeast Asian countries like the Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, and even Malaysia. In the year 2020, we moved to Vietnam, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka to assist students there. Now, coming to India, where we have extended our roots intensively. Our first offices opened in Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, and Vijayawada in January 2015. And other locations like Ludhiana, New Delhi, Bangalore, Chandigarh, Jalandhar, Vadodara, Gurugram, Vizag, Kochi, Chennai, and finally Surat. To keep up with the growing demand, we opened an innovation hub in Chennai in 2019 to help improve your overall experience with AECC Global. We have helped thousands of students to achieve their goals, and we can't wait to create more success stories with you.
Good evening, students. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to AECC Global's webinar, Study in UK, Way Forward in September 2021, Hear from the Experts. My name is Manmeet Bindra and I'm the Head of Client Relations. And along with me, I have Ms. Bindu Mary, who is the Head of Operations, and we will be the host for today's session. Further, I would like to introduce you to our panelists, who are all industry experts with many years of experience. So starting from the ladies, Ms. Shweta Jain, Regional Manager South Asia, Swansea University. Ms. Doris Pichestin, International Market Development Manager for India and Africa at University of Bristol. Mr. Bobby Mehta, Director, University of Portsmouth Global, University of Portsmouth. And last but not the least, Mr. Jasminder Khanna, South Asia Manager, Cranfield University. Welcome, panelists, and thank you for joining us today. Over to you, Bindu. Bindu, you will have to unmute yourself, please.
Sorry about that. Good evening, students. I know we are all going through very difficult times, and as students aspiring to study in UK, I'm sure you'll have a lot of queries in mind. So today we will try our best to answer all your queries. These are the key takeaways of today's session. We'll be discussing about current COVID-19 situation in UK, international travel update restrictions for South Asia, government and institution preparedness for September 2021 intake, flexibility in entry requirements due to COVID-19, graduate immigration route, popular courses and careers in demand, and next step for September 2021 intake. Before we start the session, a few housekeeping rules for your attention. Everyone except the speaker will be on mute. If you have any questions for the panelists, please type it in the Q&A section. Please do not type in the chat box. Please do not share your personal contact details in the chat box. If you would like to get in touch with students going to same universities, please connect with the AECC counselors. We will be posting the link to meet our AECC counselors once the session starts. You can meet them via our virtual office. Over to you, Manmeet.
Thank you so much, Bindu. So let's start the session. So my first question is to Doris and Bobby. So Doris, what is the current COVID situation in the UK?
Hello, everybody. Well, at the moment, it's looking fairly good, although there are some local variants as well. So if I just give you a bit of an insight from where we are in the west of England, which has traditionally been over this whole situation quite low, a low affected area. That's partly geographical, I imagine. But what our situation here is now that our students have actually returned to campus just in time to do their exams. Our shops are open, hairdressers, everything is open. I think the only thing you probably can't do yet is go to a swimming pool indoors, but you can swim in the sea if you want. A lot of population here is vaccinated, and of course we have extensive testing, so you can get free tickets, and the university tests people all the time. So it is looking good, but of course you can't be complacent. We've all seen there are surprise new variants popping up, so you know, we are all I'm sure that's the same for everybody here. We are all heeding the current advice by the specialists to make sure everybody is safe and healthy. So that's the situation from here. It's almost as normal. If I walked out my home office right now and strolled down the street, I would probably only think it's remarkably quiet on the roads, but people are out and about. Schools are open, and that's what we are looking at.
Yeah, so from my perspective, just to echo what Doris has already said, the situation in the UK, fortunately, is good. Things are looking very normal. So I'm based at University of Portsmouth on the south coast of the UK, and yeah, it's a beautiful sunny day here in the UK. Kids are at school, the campus is open, staff are in the campus. Students are around this time of year. Usually what students are doing is doing their assignments, assessments. So if you go into the library is full of students. Obviously on campus, we are still abiding by social distancing measures and guidance. If you walk around, if you compare this to maybe 18 months ago, the difference would be that people are wearing masks. People are either have hand sanitizers in their pockets, or whenever they go into shops or any buildings, they would be hand sanitizing points there. So yeah, all the sort of COVID measures are still available and around, but restaurants are open, bars, cinemas. So on the weekend, my daughter, she's 11 years old, and she wanted to watch Peter Rabbit 2. So we went to the cinema for the first time in over at least, I can't remember, probably 18 months or so. We went to the cinema for the first time. We had popcorn, we had nachos, and we watched Peter Rabbit, the four of us. And yeah, it was, I even enjoyed watching Peter Rabbit. It was good. And just being back in that sort of normal environment was a good experience. So yeah, I think the situation, thankfully, in the UK is there, but you know, we're still, as we know from friends, family, and colleagues in India, are going for a tough period at the moment. There are variants in the UK as well, of the virus, and yeah, we don't know what's going to happen exactly next, but at the moment, and hopefully for the foreseeable future, things will continue positively in the UK. And I think that's also testament to the way the UK government and the UK population has dealt with the virus, and also the vaccine rollout. The vaccine rollout is going really, really well in the UK. Almost 70% of the adult population has been vaccinated. I would imagine by September, the vast majority of the population will have at least had the first dose. And then towards the end of the year, I think the whole country will be fully vaccinated. And then there are already talks around boosters against variants and all of those types of plans for the autumn and beyond. So yeah, I think the outlook at the moment in the UK is positive. But as Doris rightly said, we are being cautious as well, being safe and not taking unnecessary risks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bobby, for that positive feedback. And it's really good to know UK is getting back to normal. Then my next question is, most of the students are doubtful about coming to UK for the September intake. They're looking to defer to the next intake. And even the parents are worried about the safety of the students. What is your take on this? Shweta, if you could give your thoughts.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this session. I'm Shweta. I work for Swansea University and I'm based in India. I'm based in Delhi. So I understand that there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of anxiety towards, whether they should go to the UK or not, whether they should defer their plans. Parents are concerned, especially because of the current situation in India. I think what happened from March this year, the sudden surge and peak in numbers, and it was like a complete chaos within India. So a lot of parents and a lot of students also got really worried whether they should settle and things get better before they start thinking about going to the UK again. So the thing is, as my colleagues Doris and Bobby said earlier, is that UK is definitely at a recovery road. Most of the people have been vaccinated. The second dose will be administered very soon, and most of the places are open. So if we look from that point of view in terms of traveling to the UK, things seem to be getting better, and we feel that students definitely are safe. Also because the government is taking all the safety measures that need to be in the place, whether it is getting people quarantined, or whether it is making sure that they have a negative test, or providing vaccination facilities to students. So they are taking all those measures, as well as the universities, who are making sure that when the students are coming on campus, or whether they are in the accommodation, at a university accommodation, they are well taken care of. All the safety measures are in place. So from that perspective, I would say it is very, very safe to be in the UK. At the moment, this is our understanding. But yes, it's a very, very volatile situation. It changes so rapidly that we don't know. If somebody would have asked me in, say, January or early February that how the things looking in India, I was like, everything is fine, and it's open, and like Bobby said, we were going to cinema, we were going to shopping, we were eating out and doing everything, and it's going to get better. That was the hope. And then came March and this new mutant, and it was like a devastating period for India. So we don't know the future. It is important to stay safe, wear mask, sanitize yourselves. But yes, currently it seems all good, and students should and must apply if they're looking for September.
Jasminder, if you could add on your thoughts.
Thank you, Bindu. Thanks for the kind introduction, Manmeet. My name is Jasminder, and I work for Cranfield, based in Mumbai in India. And one of the things, Bindu, you did mention the concern of the parents, and as we say, we never know the love of a parent until we become one ourselves. So that's completely understandable, and there's no substitute for parents' love. But at the same time, we're talking to mature students. We're talking to students who are preparing their undergraduate journeys, their postgraduate journeys. And one of the important things to understand here is, look, none of us predicted a pandemic called COVID. So we're all fighting with it together. We're all in it together, and life doesn't stop. And there are some hard questions that we've all got to ask ourselves at this point, that, where are you at more risk? And like Shweta said, after Christmas this year, at the start of the year 2021, things were the other way around. We thought India is in a much better situation, and everything was sort of opened here, and things were really concerning on the other side in the UK, when we were getting really concerning news from the other parts of the world, and see how the tables have turned. And every time we think we've defeated the pandemic and we've come out of it as a country, it comes back to surprises in new forms and shapes. So such is the uncertainty, and such is the unpredictable form of this virus. So we've just got to ask ourselves some questions based on the current situation. Where is more risk right now? I mean, am I at less risk if I stay back in India and don't go to the UK? You've got to answer this question yourself. Looking at the age group of the students who go from India to the UK, I would say most of them are in the age group of 18 to 24. And considering your age group, considering your fitness level, what are your chances of being infected? There are studies available, there is data available online that students can refer to, and you've got to very smartly, very cleverly, calculate your risk of being infected. And God forbid, you do get infected in the UK whilst you're studying in the universities there. Where do you think you will be, taken better care of? We know why we struggled as a country in the last 2 months. There's a lack of infrastructure, lack of treatment on time, etc., etc. You know that you will be in much safer hands. You will be in a much better medical infrastructure, and you will be taken care of even something goes wrong and you get infected in the UK. And when it comes to the concern of parents, I do understand, and I did say in the beginning, there's no substitute for it, but let's accept the fact, if I get infected, there isn't much that my parents can do except for the fact just talking to me on the phone whilst I'm locked in a room for the next 14 days, right? So I do understand that concern, but the question is, can life stop in such times? The life has to go on, and your education has to go on. So you've got to ask these questions to yourself and conclude to a decision.
Doris, if you have anything to add on?
I mean, my colleagues have covered loads of it, but just to give it a bit more context. So when we were in this situation last year, it was completely brand new to us. We had absolutely no idea what students would do, what with we get ill, what is going to happen. And so we were incredibly surprised to find that the vast majority of students from India who had wanted to start in September 2020, they did. There were deferrals, and yes, of course, there were more deferrals than the year previous, but they came and they went into self-isolation, quarantined on campus. They made lifelong friends because they were in bubbles, so that they could actually have interaction. All the universities have put out all the stops in supporting students because, it's brand new to all of us. And so I think I can only confirm what everybody's said, that life can't stop. Probably safer in a country with a pretty good infrastructure. The destinations that we have represented here, they all have fantastic hospitals. You are going to be treated free of charge. And the compliance in this country in terms of wearing masks, looking after, being sensible in what you're doing, what kind of interactions you have to maintain this, is really high. So and ask, what would you do if you don't come? What would you do? That was the question that most people ask themselves. And I think last year, what would I do in India if I don't go to the UK or elsewhere? I would just be sitting there. So, we were pleasantly surprised to see that our students, not only most of them came, but also when we talked to them, they said, actually, it wasn't as bad as you think it was. I could still go for walks. I could still make friends. And in fact, online learning, some of it is is quite enjoyable and sometimes even more effective than sitting in a large lecture theatre. So it's not all bad. Got to find the positives in life, and if safety is the concern, I think the UK is pretty, is doing pretty well there.
Thank you. I think, Bobby, you wanted to add something as well.
Yeah,
Here.
so I agree with what Doris has said, what Jasminda said, and I think the important thing is this is a global pandemic. It's not just affecting one part of the world. So yes, at the moment the situation unfortunately is pretty bad in India, and it has been pretty bad in the past in the UK, but it's the same situation everywhere. And I think that message of should I continue? What do I do? You have to continue with your plans, and together we will hopefully globally get through this COVID period. I wish it was a shorter period, but unfortunately it's lasting longer than we would have liked. But together we will definitely get through this. And the situation in the UK at the moment with the government's roadmap, everything is on course for doing that. And I think the vaccine program in the UK is being really effective. I've had my first dose of the vaccine. I've got my second dose in 2 weeks' time. So you can see and you can feel that the progress is moving ahead. And one important point that Doris also made is that we are now more resilient and able to deal with the situation than we were a year ago. The infrastructures, the approaches, everything that universities, governments, shops, the whole infrastructure is very, very resilient, and actually life is continuing in a new way, but in many ways in an enhanced way. We're using technology. Before, we would have been in India maybe on a one-to-one basis, going around to every office. We're now speaking to over 200 people in this session here, plus being on Facebook Live, talking to many more students, sharing this information using technology. So things have improved actually, and we've learned a lot during this period, and that will hold us in good stead. And a lot of the things that we're doing right now are here to stay actually in a positive way. So I think we need to embrace that, continue with our plans, and not to be worried. We've got lots of Indian students, I've spoken to their parents who were throughout this period worried about what's the situation in the UK, and I've got one parent, the son is doing mechanical engineering. He's now in his third year. He's on a placement, so he's starting a placement from July. He's got a placement, so all of those things are still continuing as normal that would happen. And the parents were worried. He has actually been back to India during the break in the course, and he's back in the UK now, and he's getting ready for his placement. So we managed together to get through this, and we'll continue to do that.
Thank you, Bobby. Jasminda, you would like to add something as well? I can see your hand.
Yeah, just one of the things from what Doris mentioned. What if I don't go to the UK? The question is, what are we going to do in India for the whole year? And don't forget the fact that that year that you spend at home, because India is into a lockdown, so there isn't much that I can do as a student in this country right now, except for sitting at home and waiting for the virus to disappear. And that is going to create a gap on my CV, which may not go down too well with my university when I reapply, or that may not go down too well with the UKVI when I apply for my visa. So you've got to consider, factors like those in your decision making as well. And also the fact, one of the things, again, I agree with Doris, when we're talking to the current students who are on campus, who arrived in September last year, they've had a different experience, no doubt. They've had slightly different experience from what students in the past have had. But when you talk to them now, they consider themselves quite lucky, because they came to the UK at a time when we had 25,000 students coming from India. And now if you look at the numbers, piling up for this year, we're looking at over 50 to 60,000 students. So, with the growth in numbers comes competition, and that competition reflects on employment opportunities, accommodations, scholarships, all the other factors in your application journey or your post-qualification as well. So all these decisions are very important for the students to evaluate. And if at all, they're worried about the the fall in the economy, because a lot of students that I talk to, they say that the economy in the UK dropped. And like Bobby said, this is a global pandemic. I think economies across the world, dropped during the last 18 months. But the question now is, it's not about the drop in the economy, it is about the growth in the economy. And right now, if you were to choose between India and the UK, where do you think the economy has a faster chance to recover? And my answer to that certainly would be the UK, considering the initiatives taken by the government, the initiatives taken by the HEI sector across the board, and the other things which are happening in the country. So like we say, if we wait until we're ready, we'll be waiting for the rest of our lives. So the time is now for you to evaluate all the factors very carefully and take a decision.
That's so much of positive information we've got, and I hope it gives an insight to the students that I think it's the right time for them to rethink of the decision if they're planning to go and study in September intake. So my next question is related to September intake. So what is the plan for September 2021? Are the classes going to be online, blended, or face-to-face teaching? So this is basically for all of my colleagues here today, all the panelists. So I'll start with maybe Bobby first. And Bobby, if you could just mention, and the others can add on to it, and that will be really helpful for us to understand what the universities are planning.
Yeah, so I can give two views. One view is obviously from the University of Portsmouth, and the other view I can say what I'm seeing across the UK as well. So from the University of Portsmouth perspective, we are going to be teaching on campus. That's the plan. We will continue to use technology to be able to enhance teaching going forward. So we will continue with a blended approach where that's relevant and appropriate, but we will also be flexible. So particularly for the autumn, where students aren't able to travel, there is again the possibility that we will have local lockdowns in the UK. We may be in a lockdown in the UK, who knows what the autumn will hold. So we will have that flexibility similar to what we offered throughout the course of the last 12 months. So yeah, that's the approach from Portsmouth. What I'm seeing from across different universities, some universities are returning only to face-to-face teaching. Some universities are taking very much the approach Portsmouth is taking, and having that hybrid. So there is a mixed approach, and I think again it's important you hear from each of the individual universities, and again AECC can assist in finding out, because you will have the latest information on all the universities in the UK, so you can guide students accordingly. And some students may be comfortable with either approach. Some will be looking for one or the other approach. But at Portsmouth, 100%, we are looking to have on-campus teaching according to the situation at the time. But that will be supported, and if need be, we will have the flexibility to move back online as well.
Shweta, would you like to add here?
Yes, so as Bobby said, definitely we are also expecting to do a full face-to-face teaching come September. But again, we will also have the hybrid approach, wherein the blended learning is available for students who may not be able to travel from their home country due to restrictions, or if there is a local lockdown in the UK. We also need to make sure that we are taking into consideration all the UKVI restrictions in place at that point of time. But as a university, we definitely would like to teach face-to-face on campus. There could be courses wherein we will provide blended learning, and we will have that information in the coming weeks for students, available for students.
Sorry, Doris?
So it's not dissimilar to what my colleagues have said. We are now very good at blended learning and blended teaching. And the way we've got a video on our website, which is sort of trying to illustrate this, but it's basically, if you imagine, sliders, we can adjust. So should everybody be absolutely hunky-dory, nobody's caring about any viruses anymore because they're gone, then we're just going back to what we're doing best, which is face-to-face teaching and using all the fabulous facilities all our universities have. But if that's not possible, we are able to move those sliders and say, okay, so You can see your personal tutor, have to sit 2 meters apart, but you can't go into a face-to-face teaching lesson at the moment. So it's very flexible and responsive to the situation at the time. I think, and I'd be interested to hear what my colleagues think, but I think I've observed this in my own son, who is also a student. Actually, the big lectures, you know, the big lecture when you're crammed into a big space and there's that tiny lecturer right at the front with terrible handwriting on their slides, that learning that may actually die out, because to be honest, it's much easier if you can put your question and in the chat, it's interactive. So we would have taken away possibly that would be my impression, but in general terms, we're always going to go and look at the students and all our safety first. We will try to deliver the best version of teaching that is appropriate and that gives the world-class teaching. For my university, medical school, some courses can only be face-to-face. They can't be blended learning. So what happens there is that they are, you know, observing very strictly all the safety requirements that there are. But that's an exception. There's a list of exceptions. We send students. So if they're on an accepted, one of those exempted courses, then they will not be able to start their course. You know, in India, they have to come, and you know, that's mainly sort of, you know, biomedical, medical, dental, that sort of stuff. Thanks.
Jasminder?
Yep, totally agree with all my colleagues, but you know, one of the things that I would say, it's still too early in the year to put anything in black and white, because, you know, like I said, we've just been swapping situations whilst, you know, things get better here, you know, things get a little concerning on the other side. And, you know, we've been, you know, monitoring this very closely for over 1.5 years now. So whilst we all say that we're fully committed to go back to classrooms, to go back to face-to-face teaching, I think we'll have to keep a close eye on this space and, you know, watch out for any government guidelines which may come in before the intake. And, you know, as a HEI, as a compliant HEI in the industry, we all have to comply with the government regulations, and we'll all have to adjust ourselves and our teaching methods according to the guidelines that may come in at that time. But to answer the question now, we're sitting in the end of May. The answer is we're all committed to go back to face-to-face teaching, and that's based on the situation in the UK right now.
Thank you so much, everyone. I think that's positive news for the students. Let's hope that the situation remains the same, and you know, the universities are able to go back to face-to-face teaching. And I am positive that, you know, most of the Indian students would want to do that they want to get into, you know, classrooms and, you know, use the facilities on campus and, you know, be more, you know, what the traditional approach has been. But then UK universities are known to have a good IT infrastructure. So I think even if it's blended learning, they should not have a problem. And before we go on to the next question, student, there's a poll which has been put. So could you please respond to the poll? And we should be, you know, it will help us, you know, get the information. So please do respond to the poll which has been given on your screen. So over to you, Bindu.
My question is an extension of Manmeet's previous question. You know, it's good to hear that universities are preparing to welcome students on campus. I would like to know, what are the safety measures in place, and can the students access all the facilities on campus? So I'll start with Bobby.
Yeah, so at the University of Portsmouth, safety measures will be, as Jasminder alluded to, at the time, depending on what the guidance is. So at the moment, the roadmap is from the 21st or 22nd of June that things will be back to normal in the UK. Now, I think that will change slightly, and we will still have some degree of social distancing, some degree of COVID measures in place because of the issue with variants at that time. So whatever those requirements are. So just to give you an example of things that are currently happening, we have on-campus social distancing, we have sanitizing points, we have on entrance to any of the big facilities, we have temperature monitoring. Now in the UK, up until this month we've had testing on campus, but in the UK, that testing regime has now moved on quite significantly. So this started in schools in particular, where test packs are being issued by the National Health Service in the UK. So you can do home testing. So that's freely available. You just, if I wanted to order tests, I would just go on, give my address, and a pack of, I think, 10 or so test kits comes through, and you can do a test, and within 30 minutes, you get a result to see whether you are COVID clear or positive. So, and in the regime, for example, for school kids, is that they need to do that test at least twice a week. And then if they see that they've got a positive result, they isolate for the 14-day period, etc., etc. So that's the same regime that will be introduced to universities. So Portsmouth is from next month saying that the 3 testing kits, so those testing kits, as well as being available through the NHS, will also be available to pick up on campus for students as well. So all of those types of measures are there. If you then go to the classroom environment at the moment, we'll reduce the capacity in classrooms to ensure that people can be socially distanced, the same in lab space. So there are more lab sessions happening, but with smaller numbers of students in there to make sure that things are socially distant. In all buildings, as you move around, you wear a mask. If you're sitting at a cubicle doing your work or assignments or group work or whatever it may be in that sort of area, then you may not need to wear the masks, etc. So it's just being very sensible and taking the right precautions, but the infrastructure is there to ensure that the students are able and enabled to do testing themselves, etc. So there's been a lot of really good work. So and you know, one of the points Doris made earlier, that in the UK, the compliance levels with this is very high. So you don't have people who are not following that, you know, because everyone realizes that we are in this together, and together, you know, we are looking after each other. So doing that. And I think, you know, my colleagues also raised the point that we've learned a lot from the last year. So actually the movement is not as much. So my office is open, the global office at Portsmouth is open, the campus is open, but I'm still working from home because I don't need to be on campus today. So I think you will see that pattern where people are not necessarily traveling unnecessarily, adapting to the situation, using technology for meetings rather than commuting and doing things like that. So again, I think there's a change in behaviors which will also impact safety measures and all of those types of things going forward. For example, today the office could be quite full if everybody was back on campus, but actually we're probably at a third of the capacity on campus. We probably have around 10 or 15 people on campus in my office today, rather than potentially 30 or 40. So I think that type of thing will continue, and that will all aid to good social distancing and COVID measures on campus.
Jasminder, if you could add on your thoughts.
Yeah, agree with Bobby there. We are taking a pretty flexible approach now. Whilst we did say that we are committed to go back to face-to-face, just talking from Cranfield's perspective, you know, we aren't a university with a very broad horizon of subjects. A lot of you probably may know us. We are a specialist in technology and management, and you know, where we can be flexible with a blended approach, we will be, but where it is extremely necessary for a student to be on campus, you know, so especially in cases of technology courses where students have to work together on group projects, and you know, they have to engage with the laboratories, integration centers, research labs, where they have to spend time on campus. You know, we will make arrangements for them to visit the campus and to be able to use those facilities, that, you know, so that the overall student experience of studying in the UK is not impacted.
Shweta?
Yeah, so of course, agreeing with my colleagues, from Swansea University's perspective, we are also ensuring that all the safety measures are in place for students. So it's having sanitization checkpoints, and then safe zones, also signages and markings to make sure that social distancing is being maintained, educating students in terms of how they should manage if they're on campus. Also, not everybody is coming on campus, as Bobby said, that you can go to campus, but only people or only staff which is absolutely required to be on campus, or students who are absolutely required to be on campus to access labs or research facilities or libraries are allowed on campus at the moment. So these kind of measures are being taken into consideration to make sure that VI norms are being followed and proper social distancing is being, followed at the campus to minimize the risk for students as well as the staff.
Doris, if you could add on your views.
Well, there's not much left to say. My colleagues have covered it perfectly. One of the things as I was listening, I was thinking, so I'm guessing that students are weighing up the risk of coming over against, the benefit of being here. And one thing that popped into my mind is that when I look at LinkedIn, I'm getting all these messages from our students who joined us in the pandemic, your masters, and they have done virtual internships and they have job offers. So, their life hasn't actually, it has changed, but their life hasn't stopped. So I think that's a key message to say, we will do everything we can to make it safe, but, our message will be, consider these chances as they come to you and take them. The safety angle, yes, we're covering all those areas as well. Whichever university you're going to in the end is going to do that. We're all in it together at the end of the day anyway. Sorry, slightly past the topic, but that's still important to say.
Thank you so much, Doris. Yes. My next question is an important question, which I can see in today's question and answers, as well as we've received these questions from our students when they were registering. Also, we hear this almost regularly every day that, the exams are being delayed in India, or, the exams are being done, but the results are being delayed. So, what are the possibilities for them to join just in case the results are delayed and they're not able to get the results on time to the September intake, or the exams are postponed, or maybe if I talk about the CBSE board, they're still yet to decide on the dates, are they going to take the exam or not. So my question is for Shweta. Shweta, what do you think, is there a possibility of extension or any delay in start dates for UK universities?
So to start with, I would like to say that all the UK universities are very much aware of the current situation in India in terms of delays in examination because of the recent COVID surge. And there are no definitive answers to when the exams will happen, when the results will come out. And there's a lot of ambiguity around that. So all of our universities, and I think every UK university is pretty much aware of the situation, and they're trying to make provisions internally looking at the situation. So as a university, I think they are looking at various things wherein they can accept students even if their final examinations haven't happened. So every university will have a different approach to it, and you definitely need to go back to your university to check what they're planning to do. But yes, there are universities who may be assessing students based on their current grades, maybe their predicted grades or their grades up till 5th or 8th or 7th semester for their engineering or other bachelor's courses, and accordingly assessing them. And here I just wanted to highlight that blended learning approach or online learning approach comes really as like a blessing for a student who would like to start but cannot fly to the UK to start their program. So if a university is accepting them on their current grades, happy to give them an unconditional offer, and they can proceed with their online learning, and simultaneously they can give their examinations in country and then fly out to the UK as and when it is possible. So this blended learning approach was also introduced and continued, keeping in mind that students may not be able to travel in time to start their intake. Apart from that, I think most of the universities have an extension period to their actual enrollment date. So if it is, say, 3rd week of September, usually 4 weeks after that, for most of the courses, there might be some courses wherein there's no extension or a smaller extension. But there are most of the courses who have an extension about 4 weeks, which gives students more time in terms of doing all the processes that are required. Also, with UKVI being more flexible in terms of students studying online in country because of these circumstances, which kind of discourage them to fly out to the UK. I think this is a very, very collective approach that the government as well as the universities are taking to ensure that students still have the opportunity to start their studies for the September intake and then proceed ahead and come to the UK as and when they can.
Thank you, Shweta. Jasminder?
Manmeet, I think what is important for the students to know who are right now planning their journey to the UK this September is all the universities in the UK are taking a flexible approach in terms of the entry requirements. From what we know, a lot of universities have amended the entry requirements to make the journey simpler for the students. And one of the things that Shweta also mentioned, it is important for the students to know that every single person in this sector in the UK is fully aware of the ground reality or the ground situation in India. And this is one of the highlights of every team meeting or every international discussion, that takes place on a weekly or a monthly basis. We are constantly talking and monitoring the situation. So rest assured, we know what's happening, and we are trying to make our approach as flexible as we can to make your journey easier. But what is also important for the students to understand that whilst we can be flexible, but we can only be flexible to a certain extent, because we are compliant to the UKVI. We are subject to audit by the QAA, by the accrediting bodies, etc., etc. So whilst we can be flexible, sometimes the students have some unreal expectations which cannot be met. So it is best for the students to get in touch with the institutions that they've applied to and find out what the institution is doing for the Indian students in particular.
Thank you, Jasminder. So adding on to the same question, there are couple of questions which come up in the students' mind. First thing is, just in case they're not able to make it in September 2021 intake, are universities planning to offer additional intakes? So I would want maybe Boris or maybe Bobby or Doris to add on to this as well.
Yeah, so just to add on to what Swati and Jasminder said, universities are aware of the situation. They are going to be as flexible as possible. A lot will depend actually on what the Indian government decide to do with the exams themselves, because whether you decide to go to study in the UK or not, you may decide to study in India. So the decision has to be made about what is going to happen with those. So for example, in the UK, what the UK government is very early on, learning from last year's experiences, made a decision that GCSE and A-level exams in the UK would be cancelled. So that was a decision that they made very early on, and that would be replaced by teacher assessment. So all the UK students graduating this summer from GCSEs and A-levels will have teacher-based assessments. That's where the schools will do their own testing, own exams. Teachers will then give the marks based on the performance that they believe is adequate for those students, and then universities will consider those and move the students on that basis. So that's an important element, what is actually decided by the Indian government. And that will, again, as Jasminder said, we will continue to monitor and look at. In terms of how things move forward, what universities will do, future intakes, etc. So universities, for example, at Portsmouth, we have decided that we would keep the same intake date as we did last year. So we have an October start rather than a September start. So traditionally, Portsmouth would always start in September. This year, we've saying we will start in October. That gives us a little bit more flexibility, gives the students a little bit more flexibility, etc., taking into account the situations. As well as that, we will have more January programs starting. So we have a January intake as well, and we'll have more programs, mostly for postgraduate studies, but we will have programs running at that point as well. And that gives students, again, a second option, and often quite a popular option. And there are a number of universities across the UK that will be offering those types of flexibilities. And in some cases, some universities offer a third or fourth intake. So there will be lots of those possibilities. So there will be flexibility. But as Jasminda rightly said, we will be looking at the situation, etc. And my recommendation to students is, regardless of whatever flexibilities are being offered by the different universities, it's really, really, really important that you apply as soon as possible and make that decision whether you're going to the UK or not, because the popularity of the UK as a study abroad destination right now is at an all-time high. So whilst there's plenty of places at UK universities, actually the longer you leave it in terms of the number of processes that need to be undertaken, i.e. your application, your credibility interviews, all of those processes, and then the visa process itself, if there are local lockdowns in India or not, or whatever the situation may be at the time, the sooner you start that journey, the better. Because there are a number of things that need to be done. And if you leave it too long, it may be that if everybody's left it too long, that everybody's applying at the same time. And then there are delays in the admissions process, just not because we don't want the students, or it's just because of the volume. And it's not just the volume coming from India, it's the volume coming from the world at large. So yeah, that's a very important thing I think students need to also bear in mind. There's lots of flexibility, there's options, but starting the process and making that decision to start moving forward sooner rather than later is really important.
Doris, would you like to add?
Yeah, just briefly. So at the University of Bristol, we only have one intake a year. So that's important to know. And when students apply and they do their research where they might want to go, they need to be sure what the does, because I know there's a lot of flexibility with some universities in the sector, but you know, ours, for example, just can't offer that. There was last year some leniency around when you arrive, and there was also blended learning, and so you know that we're reacting to the situation so to enable students rather than stop them, but we haven't got the facility to offer a January intake or a summer semester. Those things are not on the table for us. And just briefly on the qualifications that can't be sent in time or that might not come, that is the same as Bobby said. In the UK, you don't have A-level exam results either. And in terms of going forward into a postgraduate course, for example, at Bristol, we will be looking for, if a student cannot produce from India their final certificate of their bachelor degree, we will accept a letter of intended completion. We have done this last year. It to work okay. And then also in case for English language requirements, you know, we're constantly reviewing what we can take as proof of English language ability, because we do know the IELTS centers are closed, so that's also changing. So it's a good idea, if you have already applied, keep an eye on what the university, they should be writing to you, write to our students by email. We put it on social media and we put it on, just make sure that you know what the latest situation is. If not, write to your tutors, you know, they should also be responsive to that. But you can't just accept. Every university can offer you alternative intake months or an additional intake. It's not an easy thing to do for a big university. And so, as I said, in our example, we would have that.
Thank you so much, Doris. So my next question is, again, you know, added on to the question which we're already discussing about, an important one, as Doris mentioned, that the test centers are closed in India, and you know, students are not able to give. So the question which again comes to add on along with the intakes is, and that's open for all my colleagues here. And maybe if Shweta can start that. Shweta, talk if you could tell us about the additional intakes and also talk about what are the additional tests the higher education sector is looking at accepting because of the IELTS and PTE test centers being closed in India. So are there any additional tests being accepted by institutions?
Thanks, Manmeet. Just so taking from the previous question in terms of multiple intakes, there are definitely universities in the UK who offer multiple intakes. Say for Swansea, we do have a January intake, but mostly the intakes which are apart from September. September is the biggest intake for UK universities, and all courses and programs run in that intake. If they are offering a January or maybe a shorter, smaller May intake, all the courses may not run. So even if you have that thought process as a student in mind that, okay, if I don't go for September, I can always go for January, you need to first do your research and understand whether your program is available at your chosen university in January or May or whatever other intake they are offering. So that's really, really important that they need to look at. In terms of the language tests, so again, with test centers being closed previously, IELTS also started its online examination. So I think most of the universities are also accepting the IELTS online scores because it is assessed the same way IELTS face-to-face would be assessed. But there are universities who also accept students based on their English scores in grade 12. So it is very important, again, for you to go back to your university and check if you can get a waiver based on your English scores in your grade 12. Also, there are universities who do their own English language tests. Again, right. Just to quote Swansea's example, we do our English language test, and it is open to students who have a conditional offer with us. So there are other universities that I know that do that as well. So you will have to really go back to the university that you wish to go to and then ask with them, what are the options available if you are unable to take an English language test, and how they can assess you, what are the alternative ways that they can assess you. But I'm sure there are concessions made by every university to accommodate students wherein there is a problem which is created by the circumstance and rather than their personal situation.
Right. Doris or Bobby or Jasminder, anyone would like to add anything here in terms of the exam? And anything additional for the previous question?
One of the things that I may add is, while Shweta said there are alternatives to IELTS and TOEFL available in the market, so that you don't have to physically visit a test center. So there are substitutes such as IELTS Indicator or TOEFL IBT, which a lot of UK universities are now accepting. There's also Duolingo, which we as Cranfield are not accepting, but a lot of other universities may be accepting Duolingo test as well. So just to let the students know that there are options available, there are alternatives available to the traditional IELTS and TOEFL test, and it may be worth contacting your university just to find out if there are any changes in the English language requirements, because at such time the university may be quite flexible. They may have new ways of assessing your English language skills, either through interviews or through one of their internal English tests, which Shweta said, Swansea is offering right now, which Cranfield was also offering last year. Unfortunately, we're not doing it this year. But there are alternatives to the traditional English tests that students have been taking for years in the market. So it's worth contacting your institution and finding out how you can meet that requirement without putting yourself at too much risk.
Sure. Bobby, Doris, would you like to add anything here?
No, I think just reiterating the point that there is flexibility there. There are options available. Speaking to your counsellors at AECC, contacting the universities directly, there will be lots of information available, but there are options. We understand the situation in India. It's not new to us because we've been through this last year as well with IELTS centers, etc. closed. So we're well rehearsed in dealing with this. So nothing to worry about. We will work with you. We will support you to find the best option.
Thank you so much, Bobby, and everyone for the assurance. I think that gives a bit of confidence to students that they do have other options. Doris, I think you want to say something.
Yeah. No, not really. Just say yes. it's all about two-pronged approach. You look at what already has achieved. Can we take that? So yes, standard 12 or from a university degree with a medium of English, and then more the testing route. We don't have our own test that we use for this. We are definitely accepting online tests. So the approach is always trying to make it as easy as possible.
Yes, so there are many options for the students now. They can take the TOEFL home edition, and they can take the IELTS indicator, Duolingo, passport test as well. And then a lot of universities have their own English test. And of course, many universities are also accepting the grade 12 marks. So I think there are a lot of options, and they should not worry if the IELTS test centers are not operational at the moment, but things are settling down, in India as well. So hopefully we are hoping a couple of test centers should open anytime soon, once the lockdown restrictions are being removed from various cities. So let's hope, but then students, you still have the other options available, so you can add on. Over to you, Bindu.
Yeah. My question is to all four of you. It's about the applications. Most of the students are worried due to the pandemic, and they have not yet applied to the universities. So can they apply now? Are the applications still open? So I'll start with Jasminder.
Yeah, by all means, the students are welcome to still apply, because in India is a very flexible market. We would love to say that India is a late market, in contrast to a lot of other markets from where the UK universities welcome their students. So we are quite used to receiving late applications for India, from India, sorry. Right now, some of the courses at some of the popular universities may be oversubscribed, and there may be waiting list in place. But to answer the question in a nutshell, you've still not missed the boat, so there is still time to apply. And I think one of the beauties of our sector, the UK higher education industry, is that we don't charge our students for the applications. I don't think most universities do that. So there's nothing really costing you to at least submit your applications, have your offers ready, at least keep planning your journey, and closer to the time, say end of July, in the mid of August, then you can reevaluate your decision based on the situation on both the sides as to whether it is feasible for you to fly to the UK and start your course. But right now, there's absolutely nothing stopping the students from at least starting the journeys and submitting applications. But keep in mind, looking at the time of the year, you probably may have missed the boat to a lot of popular external scholarships. Also, a lot of rooms on university accommodation sites probably may have disappeared by now, but there's still time to apply and chase your dreams and chase your ambitions and go to the UK and study in one of the universities.
Doris?
Yeah, a word of warning. So with some universities and some courses, it is too late. So it's always imperative that you double check. So when I'm speaking for Bristol University, all the courses, most engineering courses would be closed, both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. So you need to be absolutely certain that don't dream about going to a place and do all sorts of research. The first thing you should do is, if it's an undergraduate course, UCAS should alert you actually still apply or not. But for postgraduate courses, speaking for Bristol now, on our system, if you look at the course page, there is a date right at the top where you can apply postgraduate applications, and if that date has expired, then it's not open anymore. So that would be, this year we had a surge in science, for example. So, there are some courses that are just not, where it's just not possible. So there are some where it's still possible, and it's definitely something you should be able to consider, but you need to do your research quite carefully.
Shweta?
Yeah, I would just like to add what everybody said. Applications definitely are open, and even speaking from Sponsy's perspective, our applications are open. But yes, as Doris said, there are popular courses which get kind of filled much quicker than other programs. So if you are looking to study in a university, it's very important that you apply in time. And as Jasminder said, India is a late market, and we want to just wait for the deadline, and then everybody will rush a day before the deadline to do everything. That approach may have worked in the previous years, but with the current situation where everything is so volatile and changing, and we don't know what's going to happen in another couple of weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks time, it's very important that you do your research now in terms of what program you would like to study, what subject areas you would like to go to, what universities offering that subject area, and what are your chosen universities are, and then apply. Application is the first step that you're taking. So you're taking an action, which is very, very important. So take that action, apply, and then you will also have to then further on do other things. If you're looking for scholarships, there are deadlines. You might have missed some already, but there may be still some more scholarships which are open university wise, or external scholarships, so you may still have time, you may still be in time to apply for those scholarships. Then also further going on to submit, also when you apply you might not have all the documents, you will get a conditional offer, you will still have time to make sure that you're able to procure those conditional documents and submit and get your unconditional offer. You also have to then keep in mind the time that you need to arrange finances to be able to apply for your visa, get a CAS from the university, and then finally make a visa application, which will take another 2 to 3 weeks time for you to kind of get an answer. And so if you look at the entire journey that you need to undertake before you're actually able to be at the university, I think you need to really consider taking the first step and making your application now.
Bobby?
Yeah, look, I think everyone's covered it. The importance of not leaving it too late, especially this year with so much uncertainty, is key. The quicker you apply, the sooner you apply, the sooner you start the process, the more you will be able to be in a position to react to whatever the situation is that we find ourselves in the coming months. If you need any more information, if you need any support, we're here today in this webinar to share as much information as we can through this forum. But you're fortunate that you have really good counselors at AECC who will be able to support you guys and have all the latest information live from the university. So keep in touch with your counselors. Talk to them, they will support you in the local time. Colleagues here today, Swati and Jasminder, are also based in India. We have an office in India as well, where we have 4 staff based in Delhi. So we've got lots of support and infrastructure there around you guys in terms of helping you to make the right decisions for you. Make use of all of that. Do it sooner rather than later. We don't want you to be in a situation where you've left it too late and then you run into the situation where you have to wait another year. We've had so much disruption due to COVID, and it has turned everything upside down in lots of different ways. But in this sense, we can continue. We mentioned earlier, the life is going on. There's no reason why you should stop your education. We've seen examples across the last year of how things have worked and worked really, really well. So let's get on with that. And anything you need, just give us a shout.
My next question is regarding the travel ban. And I also see in the Q&A section few questions on vaccination. So as we all know, India is added in the red countries list. So what exactly does it mean? Can Indian students travel? So I'll start with Bobby.
Yeah, so first of all, it's not a travel ban. There's never actually, the UK has never actually had a travel ban. So throughout this whole COVID period, I'm proud of what the UK government has done and the approach that we've taken. We've not closed our borders. So the current situation is, has probably been reported out in India quite well, is there's a red, amber and green list. Green, as you would suggest, it's fine for travel both backwards and forwards. There's no restrictions, there's nothing. Amber means that there is some restrictions, or when you travel, that you are expected to do some tests, and on arrival you have to quarantine, etc. On the red lists, there are quarantine facilities or hotels where you would be hosted, and there's a cost for that as well when you arrive in the UK. So at no point has the UK actually closed its borders. We're welcoming visitors, business, students, etc. to conduct their travels and do that. So yeah, there is that's the situation. We mentioned about the vaccine rollout in the UK. What will happen is once students are here in the UK, they would be able to partake in the local vaccine programs. There isn't a requirement at the moment. It may change, but there isn't a requirement that students must be vaccinated before they travel, or must have 2 vaccines or 1 vaccine or anything like that. But once a student is in the UK and once they're registered with the doctors and the NHS, they will be, as part of the general population, be treated in the same way, and they will have access to the medical facilities and the vaccination program in the UK if they are eligible for it at that time. So yeah, it's from my perspective still a very open and positive situation. Yes, at this point in time, if somebody was traveling today, they would have to, from India, they were regarded on the red list countries. So when they arrive in the UK, they would have to go into quarantine hotel facilities. There is a cost for that, but after they've done that and fulfilled the requirements there, they would then be able to progress to the institution. In September, I really, fingers crossed, hope that the situation is much better in India. And actually by that point, I would hope that India is on the green list or possibly the amber list, so that, you know, the situation will change, and we still have 4-5 months ahead of us before students will actually be traveling. And the UK government is reviewing that travel list on a free weekly basis, and they will change it based on the circumstances that they see. So, you know, I would hope, and, you know, we're already hearing, and I heard today that the situation in India is getting better slowly, but heading in the right direction. So in the coming months, you know, 2 to 3 months, I would hope the situation will be a lot better. And by that point, India may not be on the red list anymore. So that shouldn't be a reason not to continue with your plans or to change. And it won't mean just because India is on the red list that you can't travel to the UK. You would still be very welcome. And we just have to go through additional process, which is understandable, to make sure that we make sure that the environment in the UK remains safe and COVID-free in the future.
Yeah, Jasminder, if you want to add on your thoughts.
Yeah, I totally agree with Bobby. I don't know where the word ban has come from, because I've received a lot of queries. You know, are students banned from traveling to the UK? You're not at all banned from, you know, entering the UK. And I think UK was the only country in Europe which never shut its border ever since the start of this pandemic. And I do appreciate the spirit of the government of the United Kingdom for doing that. They were always encouraging businesses and students to travel to the UK in spite of all the hardships and challenges, you know, and the uncertainties in the country. So what is important for the students to understand, like Bobby said, there are 3 categories in which the travelers have been categorized based on the country that they're traveling from. There are certain protocols that need to be followed by Indian students, but that's India is on the red list as of today, which may not be the case closer to time. So we will have to keep monitoring, and we will have to keep a close eye on the ever-changing list on the government website, on the UKVI or the British government website. And the things that the students have to do right now, if India remains on the red list, they have to take a COVID test before they take the flight. They have to then before they travel, have to book a hotel, a quarantine package, one of the approved hotels by the UK government, and they have to take 2 COVID tests within those 10 days, one on the 2nd day and one on the 8th day of the quarantine. Subject to the reports, if the reports are negative, they will then be allowed to enter the university campus. So that is the protocol which is in place as we speak. But like Bobby said, we're still 4 or at least 4.5 months away from the intake, and it is this list is quite likely, or the decision to have India still on the red list is quite likely to change in the coming months. So I expect I would suggest the students keep an eye on the inboxes on the university social media channels, and keep watching the UKVI and the British government websites.
Yeah, Doris or Shweta, if you want to add on your thoughts.
Yeah, if I could just say that the word ban was terrible, and it sounds so horrifying. But we recently did a webinar holders from India, and we invited current students to give their views on current students from India. And there was one guy, and he was totally relaxed, and we talked about the travel, and he said, yeah, actually I come in from India yesterday. He'd gone home and was, and we said, well, where are you? He said, well, I'm in one of those government hotels. And he showed us the room on Zoom, and he was completely relaxed about it. So, I'm not saying it's going to be fun, but it's not the end of the world. And do check out what the university that you are joining or returning to, what they can offer you in terms of support. We're all discussing this, and my university has made a decision, and it's on our website. But, universities are really trying, how can we best support students in this situation. Should the red list still be there? But it is still also quite a long time, let's be honest, until you actually contemplating travel. So the situation could definitely change.
Shweta, I request you to please add.
Yeah, I would just like to add to this. So colleagues have covered everything in terms of that. So just for the vaccinations, I think there has been a lot of confusion in students' mind that which vaccination they need to take if they would like to travel to the UK, because there's certain vaccinations approved by the WHO and some are not. So I was involved in a recent discussion with UKVI, and as per their understanding, they're not really differentiating between any vaccinations. What they are looking at, the protocols laid by the government for red, amber or green countries. So if you are traveling from a red list country, you still have to quarantine no matter whether you have taken a vaccination or not taken a vaccination. So you will have to quarantine in a government facility, get a negative test by the end of your quarantine period on the 8th day when it is done. And once you have tested negative, then you can definitely travel to your university. So that's the only bit that I wanted to add. Rest, everything is being covered by everybody.
Yeah, regarding the vaccination, there's one question in the Q&A section. The student says he's taken one shot in India. Can he take the next shot in UK? If anybody could answer that question.
Sorry, please go on, Bobby.
Yeah, no, I think the answer is yes, that is probable. I don't know what vaccine the student has taken, and there will be medical advice around that as well. So I would seek medical advice. At the moment, the 2 vaccines in the UK that seem to be the most used or available are the Pfizer vaccine and the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine. So those are the 2 vaccines that have been taken here. But yes, depending on the student's situation, once they get here, they would then, as I mentioned earlier, be part of the National Health Service, and depending on when the vaccine hits them in terms of their eligibility, they would qualify and be treated by the NHS accordingly.
Yeah, and I also see another question. Are the university planning to take part, the cost of the quarantine? If anybody could answer that.
Well,
So
I would say, sorry, go on.
Yeah, go just please.
No, I would say the answer is yes and no. Some universities have already announced the decisions to support the students in terms of both quarantine, vaccination, etc. Whereas some universities are still contemplating the decision. But I still, we do get a lot of questions when we talk to the students, WhatsApp and emails. Will my vaccine be is my vaccine approved in the UK? I've taken co-vaccine. Will I have any issues when I arrive in the UK because that's not on the World Health Organization list? And can I take my second jab in the UK? What if I celebrate my 18th birthday in the UK after arriving there as an undergraduate student? Number of questions arising right now, and I'm sure closer to time, the UK government will answer. There will be an advisory issued to all the incoming Indian students, and not just Indian students, all international students. And you will have, definitive answers to your questions. But right now, all I can tell you, one of my neighbors, I just found out this, this news this afternoon, just before, I joined this webinar. One of my neighbors is studying at Nottingham Trent University. He joined the university in the March intake, and he got his vaccine in the UK. So he's an Indian student and international student, got his vaccine in the UK from the NHS. And that sort of gives me an indication that the government and NHS is open to vaccinating students who are visa holders in the UK. So by all means, you will be eligible to get vaccinated in the UK, because you're also paying a large sum of money towards your IHS, which is your immigration health surcharge, which covers you for all the medical treatments in the UK.
And one more question I see again regarding the travel is, it's regarding the quarantine. How can I attend classes during the quarantine? Can I attend classes during the quarantine?
Yeah, so this is where universities, as I mentioned earlier, will have this flexible approach in the autumn for sure, because there will be students arriving at different points depending on which list you're on. At the time, if you're green, you'll be able to go straight to campus. If you're amber, you have to do certain things. If you're on the red list, you'll have to do other things. So during this period, and this is where I think different universities are also putting different packages forward depending on the flexibility that they can offer. So, if you're able to offer online, that means the student will be able to continue studying online. In some universities, they may not be able to offer that. So they have a January intake. So they would be advising students to defer in that case. So I think, again, on a case-by-case basis, it's important to speak to the university. But from a University of Portsmouth perspective, we will have that flexibility. So we will be able to accommodate the students during the quarantine period if they are indeed on the red list, and therefore at one of the hotels near the airports during that period. They would be able to start using the online internet, etc., and start doing their orientation program and registering enrollment and indeed classes as well.
If anybody else would want to add their thoughts.
Shweta, would you like to add here on Doris?
Just one thing, if I could add, and this is based on our experience ever since the start of the pandemic. One thing that a lot of students usually find it hard to differentiate is the difference between distance learning and virtual learning. And there is a bit of a difference. It may sound similar, but distance learning is something that you study from your home country, sitting in India. Whereas when we say virtual learning, it means that you still arrive in the UK, you wherever you're quarantining or wherever you're staying, wherever your accommodation is, whether it's on campus, off campus, you just attend your lectures from wherever you are, but you still have to apply for a visa, secure a visa, and fly to the UK to do that. So that's virtual, and it's quite different from distance. And I think that this was a confusion that a lot of Indian students had last year.
Yeah, just to add to that also, sorry,
go on, Doris.
Can I just briefly add to that when you are in this situation where you're actually in the UK quarantined and you can't go to the lectures, your social life doesn't actually that's virtual as well. So you'll be invited to quizzes, and you'll have all sorts of other stuff that's not just learning, because we're trying to make sure that you're not missing out on that student experience. And 10 days it's usually the usual quarantine time is actually not that long, to be honest. So, you know, that's all I wanted to say. It's also about the integration into the student experience, not just the absorption of information.
Yeah, sorry, just to add to that is that, you know, when we are talking about, say, distance learning or virtual learning, as Jasminder said, it's basically you have more contact hours when you are doing virtual learning. When you do a distance learning program, you may have very limited contact hours wherein you can speak to your academic or, you know, discuss your issues that you have. But with a virtual learning, it is same as you are learning face to face. You will have similar contact hours. You will have one-to-one discussion with your academics, and you can reach out to your academics as and when you need to be. It gives you a feel of a you know, face-to-face learning only. And some of the, you know, students, some of the current students have already told me that for bigger sessions, like Doris said earlier, it is better because they can have a more one-to-one contact through the virtual learning space, and it's easier to understand also, because in a class crammed up with, say, 100, 200 people, to understand the subject is difficult. But when you have it on a one-to-one basis, through the virtual learning platform, it's much easier. So it is to actually facilitate you rather than, you know, taking away the joy of doing it, if I can say that. And some students actually like it for certain subject areas wherein they would like to have more detailed information.
Thank you so much, colleagues. My next question, so we'll move on to the, you know, the changes in the government policies, and, you know, students do have questions related to, you know, can they apply? So the next question is for colleagues in India. So Shweta and Jasminder, you're both based in different parts of the country. So this question is for both of you, that, you know, this is a very, very important question. Couple of VFS are open, couple of VFS are not operational. So, you know, can students start applying, you know, for the visa now?
Yeah.
So, Shweta,
Yeah, Shweta, you want to go first?
No,
you want to
okay.
go first?
Okay. Well, as of now, you know, majority of the visa centers are open except for Chennai and Hyderabad, which are two centers which we understand are temporarily closed. This could be due to severe lockdown restrictions in those cities. And it's just a matter of time. I think while the situation in the rest of India is getting better, it's just a matter of time before we see all the visa centers now gradually opening across the country. So you can keep an eye on the VFS website, which will give you up-to-date information on the visa centers. And in view of the pandemic, where you have options to now take your English test online without having to leave the comfort of your house, VFS has also introduced a similar service where you don't have to physically visit a visa center, and that's called the on-demand visa. And the VFS is now offering a personalized service to UK visa applicants, and that is applicable on student visa service as well. So students can now avail this service either individually or in groups, and they can submit the documents, and a member of the VFS team will visit your home, collect all the documents. Your documents will then be submitted for to the UK visa consulate or the embassy for processing, and your passport will then be returned to you at your doorstep again. So at no point you have to leave your house, you know, throughout your visa application journey. And I think students who are planning to study in the UK today, or rather this year, are really lucky to, you know, to have such services available to them at the doorstep. And, you know, these are some of the benefits of the virtual world that we're living in. So you see how, you know, every industry, every organization is adapting to the new demands, adapting to the new changes which are required at this point in time. So you have this service available from the VFS. So please visit their website to find out about the cost and the other processes which are involved in this.
Yeah, just to add to that, Jasminder has covered everything. So I think the point that I would like to reiterate is that please go to the VFS website, read what facilities are available in your city and how you can avail them. And the other thing that I wanted to add is super priority and priority visas are currently not open, but the UKVI is planning to open them soon. So that opportunity, that option will also be available to students should you wish to expedite your visa application process. So as these things going to started to get normalized, I think slowly the UKVI will also have measures in place wherein students, the VFS is more accessible to students, and they can go and do their application on a priority basis as well.
Thank you so much for this information. I'm not sure if I missed out. So, Jasminda, you were mentioning about the home service wherein the students can, get the documents collected. So how does the biometric work in that case?
So the biometrics will be collected from home. So the member of the team from the VFS will have the biometric machine when they visit the student, and the biometrics will be collected. So at no point the student has to leave the home for any of the process. So it's a pretty simplified, or rather I would say a very personalized service being offered to the applicant's student visa.
That's actually a good piece of information which we've got today, that you can apply your visa, the VFS is open, and from the comfort of your home. So I think
it's changing, and this is one of the things that we talk about when we say quarantine. I know, like Doris said, those 10 days, especially when you are a first time arriver in the UK, and you've just arrived and you've been locked in a room in a hotel for 10 days. It may not sound a very pleasing experience, but the students that we've spoken to so far who have had to quarantine themselves in the past is they've said it wasn't that hard, it wasn't that difficult, because we were always connected with our families. We have the technology, we have the FaceTimes. Even if we don't have a UK SIM card, there are still ways to connect with our family through through the internet. And I remember, when I first went to the UK, that was 2006, 15 years ago, to do my undergraduation. We weren't blessed with these sort of technologies at that time, and we had to buy trump cards. And calling India used to be like 15 pence, 20 pence a minute, and having to quarantine at that time would have been much more difficult than having to quarantine today with all the technology available to us. So it's not that difficult as it sounds.
Right. I think absolutely the technology is much better now on what it was a couple of years ago. Yeah. Okay. So the next question is related to the post-study, opportunities for international students. So Bobby and Shweta, if you can help us, give us more information on, what are the options available for both undergraduate and postgraduate students after they complete their degree.
Yeah, so obviously now with post-study work visa in the UK, that's a really positive development, and obviously that's a big attraction for students, because as well as getting a quality education, you have the opportunity to get some work experience in the UK, and B, possibly after that work experience actually find a permanent job in the UK and possibly lead to settlement, etc. in the future. So that's really good. In terms of the prospects, it's been a tough time globally for the economies across the world. But the UK is, as I think Jasminda mentioned earlier, the UK government had taken a lot of good measures and good steps to support industries, to support businesses. So we had a scheme, for example, where businesses could have made staff redundant during the COVID, and we have a number of lockdowns. I think at least 3 significant periods of lockdowns in the UK. And during that time, rather than companies making staff redundant, what the UK government had done is put a scheme in place which allowed the government to pay the salary of the staff. So at points it was 100%, at later points it became 80%, etc. So that provided a lot of support. As well as that, there were grants and other support made available to the business industry, which means now as we come out of lockdown, businesses are able to re-establish themselves. The workforce wasn't damaged. people still were able to have the ability to spend. Incomes were not stopped. So the UK government, the measures they took, has in many ways safeguarded the economy. So what will happen now as we come out of lockdown, we are hoping to see a bounce back, and the growth rate will be steady and quick, possibly in comparison to other countries better as well. So the other aspect is Brexit. So Brexit has come at an interesting time for the UK, as well as COVID. So whilst there are lots of reasons why Brexit may not be as positive, I think particularly for international students and opportunities in the UK, it's really positive, because there are more opportunities now in the UK for employment, for example, because whereas in the past it was very easy for a European citizen to come and work in the UK, now that's not necessarily the case. And for international students with the post-study work scheme, that gives them an opportunity above and beyond other citizens from other countries in that respect. So there are a lot more job opportunities. So for example, if I just talk about part-time jobs at the moment, I know a lot of students in the local area around Portsmouth have found even during the pandemic, part-time jobs, and have been able to do that. And I think partly that's due to the fact business was continuing, and people, the shops and industries and everything was still operating. But part of that is due to Brexit as well, and the fact that we didn't have as many European migrants working in the UK. That provided opportunities for international students to have those part-time jobs. And I think the same will continue as we go into graduations, when we look at placements and all of those types of opportunities. I think the outlook from my perspective is very, very positive. And we've got to remember the UK government, the UK as a country is very much a service based economy and a country. So a lot of jobs and a lot of the drive of the economy in the UK is at that graduate level. So it is a lot of graduates that, there's a lot of graduate schemes in the UK. Graduate employability is high in the UK as well. And the demand for graduates is also very high. And I think the future in terms of coming out of this global pandemic and the recovery will be largely driven by graduates, not just in the UK, but globally. And we know that the UK, getting a UK qualification does not only open the prospects of working and having a future in the UK, it is a passport to and global recognition that the UK education has, means that there's opportunities across the world. So I think personally, the outlook is very positive, and there will be lots of opportunities for students. It will be competitive, and it may be for the best as well. I'm not saying there won't be competition, but I think there will be plenty of opportunities, and if not just in the UK, globally.
Thank you so much, Bobby. Shweta?
Yes, so to just go back and touch upon GIR a little bit, Graduate Immigration Route, which will be rolled out in July this year, July 2021. So this immigration route, this graduate immigration route allows you to stay back in the UK for 2 years full-time to work full-time in the UK. And it's a pretty simple process that you can follow. All the UK government wants you to they want to make sure that you've studied your program, you've been a genuine student, you've attended your classes, given your examinations, or whatever assessment ways that your university has put into. They will require a CAS. Once you've completed your program, they will ask you for your CAS, and also they will check with your university that you have attended your classes, you're a genuine student, and then they'll process your graduate immigration route visa, and then you can stay back in the UK, you can work full-time. There is no restriction on what kind of job you can do, or you have to only work in the sector that you have studied about. So there are no restrictions. That is basically a time for you to identify and approach the organizations or the industries where you would like to work, look at your options, apply to as many as you can, and then find the best option for yourself. So that's a basic thing. There is definitely a cost attached to making your GIR application, and you also have to pay the international health surcharge. So it's a visa application cost plus your health surcharge, which will cover 2 years of your stay in the UK at that point of time. In terms of staying back or having employment opportunities after finishing your program, as Bobby said, of course, the UK government is supporting the industries to make sure that they're able to retain or grow their business. If you even Google, if you go and see about organizations in the UK, you can see PwC is hiring, you can see KPMG is hiring, and similar other organizations are looking to grow their business rather than shut down operations or cut down their staff. So there are opportunities that you can look at, and all the good students do get the opportunities. It is how you approach an employer, what kind of skills you project while you are working while you are interviewing for a job. Just to give you a quick example from Swansea University, one of the students, so there's one student, she's just completed her postgraduate degree, and she's an Indian student. She went for this postgrad 1-year program, and she came back after her examination. She's currently in India, but she's going back again in July, and she's got a full-time job with NHS. And this was the student who's applied before the GIR was there. So it's not that there are not opportunities, GIR or not, but it is how well you are able to utilize the subject or the knowledge that you've gained during your program, and then how well you are able to articulate that in front of your employer to know them that you are the right fit for the position that they have.
Sure. Thank you, Shweta. Jasminder, I think you want to add something here?
Yeah, I mean, whilst we're talking about GIR and a lot of other initiatives taken by the UK government, I just wanted to just read out a few more things to the students, some more measures which the UK government have introduced or are introducing. A lot of the students probably may have gone through the UK government's expression of ambition to grow the education exports to 25 billion by 2035 through partnerships and T&E. So that indicates the clear objectives of welcoming international students from all parts of the world to the UK higher education sector. They've also made an announcement to again express the ambition to grow the HEI students to 600,000 by 2030, which isn't too far. So over the next 9 years, we will see the numbers growing to the UK. Shweta and Bobby have already mentioned about the graduate immigration route, which now allows the students to stay back for a couple of years. They're also making it easier for the international students to now move to skilled worker category in the UK. So a lot of rules have now been relaxed in that category. They've also introduced an easier point-based system from Jan 2021. So we're getting rid of the old the tier 4 visa, which is now replaced by a slightly simplified student visa. They've also removed the cap on the number of years an international student can now study in the UK. There was a cap on the number of years a student could spend in the UK earlier. They've also temporarily increased the validity of the visa vignette, which is the sticker on the passport that students get. So that allows them to plan their travel in advance. They have also now allowed university to issue CASs to up to 180 days in advance from the course start date, again, which now allows the universities and students to prepare themselves better. And last but not the least, the students will be very pleased to know this, the UK government has reduced the threshold salaries of most skilled and graduate occupations in the UK, which will make it quite easier for them to eventually convert their GIRs, the graduate immigration routes, into other visa categories such as tier 2 or graduate entrepreneur scheme, etc., etc. So a lot of measures, initiatives taken by the UK government to not only welcome the students but also eventually help them with employment opportunities or entrepreneurial opportunities across the country.
Thank you so much, Jasmina. Doris, would you like to add anything here?
Well, I mean, it's been beautifully covered, obviously, by my colleagues already. But interestingly, I think there was an example given by a colleague about the NHS. The NHS actually has a huge shortage already. Plus, a lot of the highly qualified staff was European. And, you know, there is a definite exodus from that group as well. So the opportunities for students who, you don't have to be a doctor, you can work as a researcher, as lots of jobs just in one part of the industry. They are truly tremendous. So the side effect of Brexit, the positive side effect is a definite real thing. The other thing to say is that actually, yes, we're highlighting all the areas where you know, COVID has stopped us doing things, but also enabling us to do other things that we didn't even know we could do before. So we can work remotely. I have personally not been in the office for nearly a year now, and it has not meant that I work less or less effectively. I just work differently, and that's also you know, that's indicative that some industry, and in fact I think my colleagues would agree, our industry has actually grown, and even though we were in lockdown. So you know, the opportunities are there. You must just look slightly differently perhaps, and with an open mind.
Yeah, I think for the higher education institutions, in many ways, the technology is enabled to make us work harder. So we tend to go from meeting to meeting to meeting, so we don't actually have to leave our desks anymore. It's technology has actually made us even more efficient than we were before. So it's positive on many levels.
Absolutely correct, Bobby. So, Jasminder, I think you want to add something?
No, that's
okay. Your hand was raised, so I thought you wanted to
sorry.
add.
I think it's
okay,
legacy.
that's fine. I think we're really delayed in terms of the timelines which we thought of, but then it's going as a good discussion. I will just pick up one last question, and that's for all of you, because you know all of you are industry experts, and you know this will be really helpful. I can see a lot of questions in the chat talking about various subject areas, careers after completing. So you know, if you could add on to you know, what are the careers and popular programs post COVID-19 which are you know good for international students, and you know students are also worried about you know the jobs. I think we've already mentioned, Bobby's mentioned, Shweta's mentioned, Jasminder, Doris, everyone's mentioned about the career opportunities, both part-time and full-time. So overall, as a question, what I want to know is popular programs, careers post-pandemic. So any of you can start, maybe.
Yeah, you know, I probably wouldn't say, you know, there's any course which is less popular than the other, because all courses, you know, add value to the student's career, and all courses are important. But, you know, whilst we're talking about jobs, and whilst we're talking about careers, and, you know, we're talking to a lot of mature students here who understand that whilst we're trying to recover an economy, that requires tremendous support from the government. And, you know, whilst all governments in the world are doing what they can to support the industries, to support the, you know, the employers and small and medium businesses, but I think the UK government has gone over and beyond the remit to support the industries in the UK. So maybe if I could just read out some of the things that the government has been doing since last year, and that would give an indication to our students of, you know, how hopeful they can be of the economic recovery, and of course, which will have a direct reflection on the employment opportunities when they graduate from the UK. So as soon as we went into the lockdown, as soon as the UK went into the lockdown, the UK government announced a 14.5 billion emergency response fund, which was set up by the Chancellor. They increased the research funding by £100 million. The Bank of England, you know, cut its interest rate to 0.1% to facilitate easier businesses and household loans. £190 billion worth of loans were provided to businesses, which was 13 times as of 2019. Support to businesses to pay their staff and suppliers. Bobby's already mentioned about this, which was the furlough scheme, which saved thousands and thousands of redundancies across the country. Cancellation of business tax liabilities, increasing generosity and ease of access to statutory pay for those required to take time off due to COVID-19, and increasing support available to self-employed people, and a lot of other initiatives such as, you know, Eat Out to Help Out, which was you know, a campaign which was rolled out for the food industry, for the restaurant industry. 29% of the employees across the country did go on furloughs, you know, so they managed to save their jobs. and so on and so forth. It's an endless list. I can go until 4 o'clock in the morning, telling all the things that have been happening in the UK. But, we are discussing this to give the students an indication of how the government is supporting the industry for the industry to now come out of this pandemic and grow from this point. So that's important for them to understand that the backbone of the recovery is the support from the government, and the government is doing what they can in the capacity.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so I think what will happen as a result of that is, in terms of sectors that are in demand and all of those types of things, that it's going to be a continuation. The types of jobs that were there before the pandemic are going to be there after the pandemic as well. But I think there are lots of lessons to be learned from the pandemic, and what we will see is an evolution. And there will be focus on some key areas going forward. So I think IT and computer and technology, all of those types of things are going to be very, very important. I think we will see the continuation of developments in this space, of how technology is going to impact on the way we operate and do things in the daily lives. I think a big part of the global pandemic is things like air travel and how that was stopped at key points or reduced, and how travel is stopped, and etc. I think that will resume. I definitely think that will return. But then the sustainability agenda, the climate, environmental agenda, I think that is definitely going to be something that will feature going forward, and will be an important part of what happens as we go forward. And then I think, as we've seen and as we've been told, this is not the last global pandemic. This is not the last pandemic. So investment in research, investment in medical infrastructure, all of those types of big scale projects, and learning really big lessons from the last year, the value of hospitals, nursing, medical research into biotech, and all the rest of it. Some of the things that have been done in the last 12, 18 months, in developing a vaccine at the speed, and not just one vaccine, globally, the number of vaccines that have been developed. I don't think we're going to lose some of these things. So there is going to be, and like I said before, there is going to be lots of things that come out, lots of positives that we take forward, but graduates will be at the forefront of all of that. And whether it be a business graduate or a biotech graduate, or somebody who is in the creative disciplines and providing the next generation of entertainment, or whatever that may be for us going forward, I think there's going to be plenty of scope and opportunities in terms of the outlook, and graduates will be at the forefront of that.
Sure. Shweta?
Yeah, I think Jasminder and Bobby kind of covered everything. I would agree, tech, healthcare, medicine, these are the areas are definitely wherein I think more and more research is required to kind of tackle any further pandemics that we may have, or viruses that we may have. So these areas definitely will grow more and more in the coming years. And students, see, all areas are important. If there's a hospital, if there comes a new hospital, they also need a manager, if they need a researcher, if they need a clinician or anybody. So it's all sectors, all areas are important. It is important for the student to understand what interests them. What do they want? How do they want to utilize it? That's the most important thing. Because if you do something just because it's popular and just because you think it's going to land you a job, you may not be able to do it well. But when you do it from the perspective that you're passionate about it and you want to grow in this area and you want to contribute to this industry, then the real change comes. So looking from that perspective, they have to choose what is right for them, not what is popular, and then go ahead with the program.
Absolutely agree, Shweta. Completely agree that, if there is a project which comes up, there are all sorts of jobs which will come along. So, everyone's important, all sectors are important.
And
Doris,
you know,
would you like to add?
sorry, just before that, you know, Manmeet, sometimes the students ask, you know, what are the popular courses in your institution? What
That's
are
a
the
normal
popular
question
courses?
that I get all
And
the time.
you know, I would love to tell them, you know, every course has its own value. If there is an industry
Yeah,
which is surviving today, it's surviving for a reason, it's growing for a reason, because
right.
there is a need for that industry, because the dinosaurs weren't required, they died 1,000 years ago, but you know, humans are required, so humans are still surviving, we're still existing, and we're growing. So if there is an industry which you see around, you know, you today, there's a reason that industry exists, and there's a reason that industry
Yep.
grows. It all narrows down to your passion and your interest, what you want to pursue in your career.
Yeah. Doris?
Yeah. And one kind of
Yeah.
industry can't just
Sorry.
down. There's a lot of interdependency that, you know, various industries have. So you need. Sorry, Doris, go on.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. You know what, whilst my colleagues were speaking, I was thinking, what is the one area of industry that's completely suffered and you know, you wouldn't want to encourage anybody to go into? And I can't think of one, because even if you think about performing arts, or you think, oh, the theatres were closed, but then what did they do? They went online, and they invented new ways of entertaining.
Yes.
I think that's just the thing we have to remember. We're humans, and we have to entertain, we want to thrive, we want to you know, prosper, and there will be a way of doing that. So you know, I literally can't think of anything. But perhaps it's not a good time to become a travel agent. I don't know, but maybe it is, you know. But literally, I cannot think of an industry that you know, if it adapts to the new challenges, wouldn't thrive. So that was just my thing.
Okay. Yes, I completely agree. I think everyone's doing their own bit. Maybe the way they're doing it is different. So I think that's the only difference now. Okay. I think we're almost done. Before we close the session, I have a really important question which I want to ask, and you know, I want a message to be passed on to our students. What you know, should they be doing when they're ready to, you know, come to UK and apply for their visa? So what are the, you know, advice from you guys to them, that, you know, what exactly they need to do, you know, when they're ready, they're almost on the verge of maybe accepting an offer, or maybe some of them have already accepted an offer. So the group here is a mixed group wherein we've got students who've already paid. I can see questions, you know, they're talking about that, you know, I'm expecting my cash to be there any soon, or maybe I'm waiting to apply for my visa, or my financials are under process. So, you know, what is the advice which you would like to give to the students? So
Stay
I'll
away
start
from,
with.
I'd say stay away from the WhatsApp groups. That's my biggest advice, because whilst they are good to socialize and connect and meet a lot of people who may have, you know, common destinations, but if you have any questions, you know, any concerns about the processes, about the requirements, about your course structures or visa requirements, accommodation, etc., which is understandable. You may have a lot of questions which may have arisen due to the pandemic, which may have arisen because of, you know, your first time experience of studying abroad, etc., etc. There's a reason, you know, we exist. There's a reason we get paid from our universities to serve you, to answer your questions. So please reach out to your universities, whether to the local representatives on ground, or to your university international offices, or, you know, other departments. Your friends and you are sailing in the same boat, so I don't see why your friends should have any extra knowledge than what you have. So please reach out to the university, especially at times like these where things are changing every minute, you know, where guidelines are changing every minute, where requirements are changing every minute. Please keep in touch with your university till you arrive on the campus.
Who wants to go next?
Just to add to that, also keep an eye on the UK government regulations, travel regulations. Make sure that you are well aware of whatever policies or protocols are put in place by the country that you're traveling to, so that it's not a shock at the last moment, or there's some document that you're trying to arrange because you never understood about it. And of course, I would say be in touch with your counselors at AECC, because they are trained professionals and they know how to guide you for your visa application processes, what documentation is required, even the financials in terms of documentation. Sometimes we see that students have all the money, but the documentation is incorrect and they get a visa rejection. So once you are at the stage where you have received your CAS and you are in the process of your making your visa application, please ensure that you have read the full guidance on the documentation. It's available on the UKVI website, and also consult with your counselors in terms of what documentations, the format, the amount also that you need to show, so that there is very little room for a rejection. Nobody wants to get their visa rejected. We don't want your visa rejected. We would like you to have a visa and come to us and study with us. So please ensure that you do not make silly mistakes, which I've seen students making, and then regretting about it. Also, there are, the interview that the UKVI takes when you submit your visa application. You need to be well prepared. What they are not there, they're not a police who is trying to not let you enter to the UK. They basically want to know that you are a genuine student, you understand what program you've applied for, you've read about the course, you know what you're getting into, how you will benefit out of that program. So they ask you basic questions. You know which university you are going to, which city that university is based in. Sometimes students do not even able to answer those kind of questions, and you will definitely get a rejection if you're not able to do that. So do your homework. That's really, really important. Though there is support through us, the representatives who are based here, or the international office, as well as the counselors from AECC, it is you who has to answer the questions. So you need to be prepared. You need to make sure that you have the answers. So that's my advice.
Bobby?
Yeah, just to add, I guess, genuine students, that for me is really a key point. If you're not a genuine student, don't waste your time, don't waste our time, don't waste anyone's time trying to apply to come and study in the UK. You will get caught out. You know, if you don't do, if you're not genuine through the credibility interviews, through the process, through the interactions with good agencies like AECC, and the interview with the Home Office, and your plans won't work, and you will not be able to avail the benefits that the UK has to offer. Whereas if you're a genuine student, apply early, work with your counselors, follow the guidance, keep in touch with the universities, get all the latest information directly from the counselors or from the university, not from the WhatsApp groups, as Jaswinder has rightly pointed out. And, follow the guidance, make sure you're well prepared, be ready to answer questions about the university, about the reason you're choosing to go and study, etc. These are all things that genuine students would be able to answer and would be prepared to do. So please make sure you're ready to that, and all the guidance that you need will be given to you, particularly by your counselors, who are, as Swati has said, are well trained and well rehearsed in sending many students to the UK every year. So yeah, that's what I would.
If I could add to that, maybe apart from, serious things, also just immerse yourself prior to leaving your own country and living in a new one. Try to immerse yourself in the culture of the country. You can do that with the Students' Union of the universities already, checking out what kind of clubs, what kind of stuff is there that you could join your studies. Go on the local news of the area you're joining and see what kind of place is this I'm joining, just so that when you're arriving, then a little bit more like a local already, somebody who's really engaged. I just love the fact that you're all warning against WhatsApp groups. I've been traumatized last year myself through running one of those, and it is quite an experience. And yes, I would also say, please, just talk to your counselor, university directly. And also from me is always check your spam and junk folder. The number of times an important email from might have ended up in the wrong folder and you have not seen it. It's quite a small thing to do, but actually it does happen. But yeah, that's from me. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Doris. I think I personally would like to add, my colleagues have already, shared most of the information. Meeting the deadlines is really important. So, if you already have applied, got an offer, accept it at the earliest possible, pay your deposits, and, clear your, pending documents, and apply for your loan if you have to take a loan, and be prepared on time, because as we've been discussing, it's not going to be a normal year like previous years. The number of applications have gone high, so there are delays. So you could have delays even from the UKVI in terms of getting the decisions on your visas. So please do apply and meet the timelines, meet the deadlines, so that you're ready for the September intake on time. Any last thing which anyone would like to add, or we're ready to close the session?
Yeah, but just look, we understand, everybody understands you have a lot of questions, a lot of ifs and buts, but as we say, if ifs and buts were pots and pans, there would be no job for the tinker's hand. So our guess would be as good as yours with regards to a lot of questions which are discussed today. And we will have to wait and watch. We will have to keep an eye on the guidelines, but keep preparing yourself. That's the key. Don't stop at any stage, because the last thing you want to see is everything opens up, everything gets back to normal, and you are still far behind in your application journey, which is something you don't want to happen. So keep preparing yourself, and this time will pass, and when it does, you would be much stronger than what you thought you would be. So believe in yourself, believe in your decisions. We're all here to support you as a sector collectively, and we are eagerly looking forward to welcome you on the other side when you arrive in the UK this September. So all the best, and please take care of yourselves. Do continue to take precautions. Don't step out if not necessary. The pandemic hasn't gone anywhere, at least in India, for the time being, but looking forward to see you, and good luck with your planning. Thank you.
Just to add to that, I would say that we are here. Please get in touch with us, even after this was one session, but even after this session, if you have questions, if you have some challenges that you're facing in terms of your application, getting the documentation that you would like to submit, for example, your letter of recommendations or similar other documents, please get in touch with us. We can provide you with the right information. We can also understand and give you more time to submit those documents. So please get in touch with us for any questions, any queries that you have about the university, or get in touch with your counselor so that they can communicate with us about the challenges that you're facing. And yes, as Jasminda said, please stay indoors, stay safe, take care of yourself, of your family, and hopefully all of us will see ourselves at the other end of the pandemic soon. Thank you for attending today.
Thank you, Shweta. So I think we're ready to close the session. We're ready to close the session. Thank you so much, colleagues. Thank you, Bobby, Jasminder, Shweta, Doris, Bindu, and all my colleagues from AECC who've been with us today. Really appreciate your time. Apologies for this extension. We were hoping that we were going to finish soon, but I think the conversations went a bit more detailed, and I think that's going to give us a lot of the students have gone back with good piece of information, and that will help them take a decision. So wish you all the best. Be safe. And thank you so much once again. Thank you, students, for attending the session. This session is recorded and available live on Facebook as well. So if you want to go back and view, you will be having the access to it. And be safe, and thank you very much. We are ready to close the session. Bindu, would you like to add something?
Well, the only thing I would like to add is students who have not yet applied, please, hurry up and apply to the institutions at the earliest. The applications are still open, but as the panelists said, do your research, check if the course is still available, and then apply to the universities. Please do not delay. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, sure.
Thank you, AECC, for organizing this and giving us panelists. And I would also like to thank my fellow panelists for their insightful, things that they have told us during the session. So thank you all of you for this session.
Thank you so much, panelists and colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Manmeet. Thanks, Bobby, Shweta, Doris. Thanks, Bindu.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Um,
How do we?